appears as if my soul had a presentiment of all I was to endure, though had it lasted it would not have amounted to so much as this. But our Lord did not abandon his poor servant in her sufferings, for he always supported me in every tribulation. And so he did in this, for he gave me a little light to understand those thoughts came from the devil, and that he suggested all these to terrify me with his lies. Then I began to remember the strong resolutions I had made of serving our Lord, and the desires I had of suffering for his sake, and I considered that, if I intended to execute them, I must not seek after ease, that if I met with troubles there would be merit too, and that if I bore them to honor God, they might serve instead of purgatory. What was I afraid of? If I desired crosses, these were good heavy ones, and the more opposition, so much the more gain. And why did I want courage to serve one to whom I was so much indebted? With these and other considerations, doing violence to myself, I promised before the most holy sacrament to do my utmost to obtain leave to come and dwell in this house, and in case I could do so with a good conscience, to vow perpetual enclosure. As I was forming these resolutions the devil immediately vanished, and left me quiet and content, and so I have continued ever since. All that is observed in this house respecting enclosure, penance, and other matters have become extremely pleasant, and are considered to be little or nothing. The delight also which we experience is so very great, that sometimes I think I could not have chosen in the whole world anything sweeter. This must be, in some measure, the reason why I now have better health than I ever had, or because there were both a reason and a necessity why I should do what all the rest did. Perhaps our Lord was therefore pleased to give me this consolation to enable me to do it, though with pain. And this strength of mine all wonder at, who know my infirmities. Blessed be He who gives every gift, and who can do all things by His power. I was very weary and tired with this combat, and I laughed to myself at the devil, for I saw clearly it came from him. I believe our Lord permitted it, for during 28 years and more, since I have worn the habit, I never knew, even for a moment, what sadness meant. In order that I might understand what a great favor He had bestowed upon me in this way, and from what a torment He had freed me, and also that in case I saw anyone else in the like state, I might not wonder, but rather compassionate her, and be able to console her. This combat being now ended, and desiring to take a little rest after dinner, for all the previous night I had hardly any sleep, and during several other nights I was full of cares and troubles, besides being tired from all the troubles of the preceding days. I was informed that what had been done was known in my monastery of the Incarnation, and also in the town. Immediately, for the reasons already mentioned, there arose a great uproar and disturbance, which seemed to be, in some measure, justifiable. The prioress immediately commanded me to come to the monastery instantly. When I received her message, I went immediately, leaving my nuns very unhappy. I saw I should now meet with many troubles, but as the house was already established, I did not trouble myself much about them. I gave myself to prayer, beseeching our Lord to help me and my father Saint Joseph, that he would bring me back again to his monastery, and I offered up to him whatever I was to suffer. Being exceedingly desirous of an opportunity of suffering something for his sake, and of being able to serve him, I went there thinking they would certainly put me into prison. This I thought would be a great comfort to me, for there I should not speak to anyone, and would be able to repose a little while in solitude. And this was necessary for me, for by conversing so often with people, I became, as it were, ground to dust. As soon as I arrived, I gave an account of myself to the prioress, who then became somewhat pacified. But they all sent for the Father Provincial, and the cause was to be heard before him. When he came, I was summoned to appear before him, and I was exceedingly delighted to see myself suffer something for the love of our Lord. For I found that I had not, in this case, offended His Majesty, nor done anything against my order, but rather had endeavored to promote its interest with all my strength, and for it I would willingly have died, for it was my sole desire that the rules should be observed with all possible perfection. I called to mind the sentence passed on Christ, and saw how little that was which I endured. The provincial blamed me very sharply, for I acknowledged my fault to him, as one very guilty. But he did not blame me so severely as the offense deserved, and considering what so many had told him. I did not wish to excuse myself, because I was resolved to suffer, but I desired he would rather pardon and punish me than entertain any angry feelings against me. In some things I saw clearly they condemned me wrongfully, for they said, I had commenced this undertaking to get myself a name and reputation, and so on. In other things I was convinced that what they said was true, as for instance, that I was the worst of all the nuns, that not having observed the rules used in this house, how could I think of observing them with greater strictness in another? That I gave scandals to the people and introduced novelties. These accusations did not give me any trouble or pain, though I appeared to be afflicted, lest I should seem to disregard what they said to me. At last the Father Provincial commanded me to declare there before the nuns my reasons and the object of my actions. As I was recollected within myself, and our Lord assisted me, I gave my reasons in such a way that neither the Provincial nor the nuns present could find any cause to condemn me. I spoke afterwards with the Father Provincial alone, and informed him more in particular of the success of the business. He was quite satisfied, and promised that, if I could succeed in appeasing the city, he would give me leave to remove to the new house, because the tumult in the place was very great, as I shall now relate. 2 or 3 days after, the mayor and magistrates of the city, together with some of the chapter, met together, and all declared they would not on no account consent to the establishment of the new house, because it was a manifest injury to the city, that the most blessed sacrament should be taken away, and that they would not in any way allow the matter to go further. They appointed several divines from every order to give me their opinions. Of these some were silent, and others condemned the business, and came to the conclusion that the house should be dissolved. Only one father, a doctor of divinity of the order of St. Dominic, he was against us, not on account of its being a monastery, but because it was poor, said, that there was no necessity for dissolving the house so suddenly, that the subject ought to be carefully considered, since there was time enough for it, that this case belonged to the bishop, etc. These words did a great deal of good, for considering the excitement, it was a wonder the people did not immediately pull down the building. But it was to be a monastery, because our Lord was pleased it should be, against whose will all of them united together could do but little. They gave their reasons and showed great zeal, and thus, without their offending God, they made me and all who were favorable to the business, for some such there were, suffer and endure great persecutions. The tumult and excitement of the people were so great that no one talked of anything else, and all condemned me, running first to the Provincial and then to my monastery. I was no more moved by what they said against me than if they said nothing, but the fear lest the house should be dissolved, and seeing that those who assisted me lost their credit, and knowing what affliction they endured, all this grieved me exceedingly. As to what was said about myself, I was rather glad of it, and if I had had a little faith, I should not have felt the least alteration. But a falling off in any one virtue is sufficient to lay asleep all the rest. During the 2 days in which the meetings were held among the people, I was very much troubled, and being exceedingly sad, our Lord said to me, "Dost thou not know I am powerful? What are you afraid of?" And he assured me the monastery should not be dissolved. These words consoled me very much. In the meantime the king's council was informed of the whole of the proceedings, and an order came that an account should be drawn up, on our part, how this monastery was to be founded. Here, however, a great contest began, for on the part of the city some had gone to the court, and some were also obliged to go on the part of the monastery. But we had no money, and I knew not what to do. Our Lord so ordered that the Provincial never commanded me to desist prosecuting the business, for he is such a friend to any good work, that though he might not assist the business, he would not put any obstacle in the way. And he would not grant me leave to remove to the new house till he saw what the result would be. These servants of God remained alone, and did more by their prayers than I did with all my labors, though I was obliged to use my utmost endeavors. Sometimes all seemed lost, especially one day, before the Father had come, it happened that the prioress commanded me not to do anything in this business, which was in reality to give up